Qatar. Qatar.
I have been working with Amnesty for the past 10 years, researching and documenting human rights violations in the Gulf region. I traveled to Qatar to meet migrant workers there in the country, meet officials, but also traveled to sending countries to meet migrant workers in their home countries and hear about their stories and experience working in Qatar.
Qatar!
As a person coming from the Middle East, I was genuinely so happy when Qatar was awarded this right to host this World Cup. Basically, it meant for once I felt our region will be associated with a mega sporting event, being able to celebrate the Middle East, the culture that we have, and not being necessarily associated with wars and terrorism and violation.
Of course, the World Cup will take place in Qatar in 2022.
So in a nutshell, these elements of this kafala system create this power imbalance between workers and employers and are usually used by unscrupulous employers to abuse and exploit migrant workers. Obviously, we just have to caveat all this by saying not all migrant workers in Qatar face labor abuses and exploitation, but the system in place in the country allows for these abuses to happen and facilitate these abuses. And the problem starts usually in the sending countries, where migrant workers tend to pay high recruitment fees to secure these jobs in Qatar and the Gulf. So they come to the country already in debt, and once they arrive in the country, many also are deceived into their labor conditions or working conditions. So they were promised jobs that are different than what they will find in Qatar, be it at the pay level or the conditions that they will be living in. Others also have issues of unpaid salaries or late or non-payment of wages, which we refer to as wage theft.
अर्को ठाउँमा आउँदा पनि अब मेरो छोराहरु त अब स्कुल भित्र छिर्न पाएन गेट बाहिर राख्ने सम्भव भयो थियो गेट बाहिर एक दिन त गेट बाहिर पनि राखे मैले फिस तिर्न नसकेर
जस्तो अब बिहान 5 बजे 4 बजे उठेर गएपछि बेलुका 10 11 बजेसम्म ड्युटी हुन्थ्यो खानाको टाइम पनि दिएको थिएन खानाको लागि कुरा गर्यो भने तिमी खाना खान आएको कि काम गर्न आएको त्यस्तो जवाफ पाइन्थ्यो.
Lots of them working in long hours in very difficult working conditions. We know the climate in Qatar and the Gulf, the heat and humidity that can cause also some health issues for them, especially those working in constructions. They work what we call live in labor camps, So it's usually kind of small rooms where they share amongst 8 or 10 people, sleeping on bunk beds, sometimes in unsanitary conditions. Our latest report looked at the issue of the deaths of migrant workers in Qatar. We have seen a high number of relatively young and healthy migrant workers who are dying for unknown reason, often referred to as natural death or cardiac arrest, without any underlying health condition.
সুজন আমার ছোট ভাই প্রায় 3 বছর হয়ে গেছে 3 বছরের মাথা শেষ করতে পারে না তার অনেক স্বপ্ন ছিল কিভাবে মারা গেছে একমাত্র আল্লাহই জানে
Sadly, the case of Sujan is not unique, and we have seen other cases of families of migrant workers who are suffering as a result of the death of their loved ones in Qatar. Qatar will have the duty to remedy the families of the deceased families back home if the investigation found that the death is actually related to their working condition.
Any death is a tragedy, whether it's 1, whether it's 1,000, whether it's 2, and that is unacceptable. And our goal and the steps that we've taken and the steps that Qatar in general is taking is to make sure that that number reaches 0.
The reforms that have been introduced were good on paper, but in practice they remain weakly enforced and implemented, meaning that when you hear the stories of migrant workers, you can tell that they are still struggling and many are still facing abuse. For instance, despite the fact that now migrant workers are allowed to move jobs without the permission of their employer, there are certain loopholes still in the system that means that many are not able to move jobs. For the cases of unpaid salaries, we have spoken to many hundreds of migrant workers who've been waiting for months to get their case settled in court. And at the end of the day, they ended up with a piece of paper without receiving any of their wages or their dues.
It is indeed a historic decision for football because
FIFA has listened, and FIFA is changing. FIFA will include provisions in its statutes to respect and promote human rights in all of its activities, from the organisation of the FIFA World Cup to football development projects and commercial partnerships.
In May 2017, FIFA introduced its human rights policy, meaning that now it has committed to have responsibility to respect the human rights. And also, it has introduced bidding criteria for all potential hosting countries to meet certain criteria if they want to host the World Cup or major football events. However, the implementation of these policies is a bit questionable, knowing that FIFA was considering to expand this World Cup to Saudi Arabia, or the fact that it awarded the FIFA Club World Cup to China. I really want this to be an opportunity for change, and I am hopeful that Qatar has come a long way, but it needs to continue carrying on the reforms process that it started. It needs to give it meaning, it needs to implement it and enforce it properly so that Qatar will be a better place for migrant workers. However, the clock is ticking. We don't have much time.